Chapter 21. Light Spear, 1, you are listening at NovelFull.audio. Over the last 2 years, Billy learned several types of moves from the instructors. Still, he began to add the use of a bow and sword to his daily routine to make them level up organically. However, he had grown so much that he had plenty of stamina to keep training even at night, but he could only use his spear at home. Archery was especially troublesome to become good at. One needed constant practice, so he wanted a bow. Unfortunately, he had no money, he couldn't find materials lying around and craft his own either since he was in the middle of a big town. His family received money from their work, but now they were using most of it to look after the twins, so if Billy wanted a new weapon, he would have to work, earn money, and buy one. The question was, who would hire a 7-year-old boy? "Mother, what can I do to earn money here?" Billy asked. "Why do you want money?" Camilla frowned since their tribe only began to use it recently because it was necessary for the town. "I want to buy a bow to practice at home," Billy replied. There was no need to lie since she would find out sooner or later. Still, Camilla couldn't help but worry. It was fine for Billy to be interested in other weapons, but he had talent with a spear. He could spar with kids that were 3 years older, after all. For the sake of the future, it would be better if he were to master a single weapon before he joins the guard. However, that will take at least 5 years, recently 12-year-old kids were helping the guards. Besides, bows ran out of arrows all the time. The redhead tribe wasn't weak, but everyone knows that they don't fare well in long battles. "I will see what I can do, but you shouldn't slack off with the training with your spear, all right?" Camilla asked. "Yes, Mother," Billy said. Billy was also fully aware of the pros and cons of trying to become used to another weapon. First of all, one might obtain some bad habits, like using the bow when it is only optimal and spears in other situations. While that wasn't so bad, it was a way for a person to escape some difficulties. In order to become truly strong, one cannot act like that. Billy also knew that he would have less time to train with a job, but he would obtain certain things alongside with. First of all, he would obtain connections with other people that might become handy in the future, and if it is a job based on productivity, he probably could use his system to produce more and thus earn more. In the end, Billy got lucky. His mother found a job for him in the mornings at one of the blacksmith shops of the town. While most of the weapons are made of some type of stone, some of their tips are made of iron because they are more durable and lighter. Not to mention, while Billy had never seen people wearing them before in the town, the guards used armor on a daily basis. They just couldn't take them to their homes, and naturally, the armor couldn't be made of stone. It would turn everyone into slow and easy targets. "Listen, Billy," Drew said while he was taking his son to the shop. "The man you are going to work for promised to give you a bow if you do your job right, but he is short-tempered, so don't do anything, you should, got it?" "Yes, Father," Billy said. Billy wanted to hear more about what kind of job he was going to do before hearing that he would gain a bow. Still, he wasn't in the position to be that demanding or complain about the job. While some kids began to learn their professions around that age, few of the masters usually accepted helpers or students that wanted to be warriors. First of all, they were only diligent when it came to combat and training. Aside from that, they were mostly clumsy at everything else. In any case, the shop that he had to work at was relatively simple. As one would expect, a lot of smoke was leaving the building 3 times his home's size. In one of the parts of the building, which was the front, Billy found many pieces of armor and weapons being shown, and a middle-aged man with annoyed eyes guarding and attending the place. He was pretty well built, and even though he was a blacksmith who had some prominent thick black beard, it was completely free of ashes and dust. It seemed that he hadn't sold and forged weapons in a while. He had light brown hair and a shaved head, and his name was John. "Your job is to clean the warehouse," John said. John guided Billy to the warehouse, and it was as big as his shop. Nevertheless, a lot of gear was gathering dust there. Cleaning everything wouldn't be a matter of skill but of strength and resilience. Billy didn't have time to waste, so he began to work. Some hammers and spears were pretty long, so he increased his strength to help while moving those. Billy wanted to learn something more practical, like forging. Still, in the end, he decided to do the task he was given before trying anything else. As expected, not a single client appeared in the morning. John was already used to it, so he went to the warehouse and checked Billy's progress. The kid soon would need his help, after all. However, much to his surprise, Billy had already finished half of the job. Chapter 22. Light Spear, 2, you are listening at NovelFull.audio. In the end, Billy decided to finish the task on the very same day. That would leave an impression on John, so he might hire in the future. Billy also did that because it would give him the chance to practice on that same day. You worked hard, kiddo, John said. Despite your size, you are surprisingly strong, as expected of Drew's son. Anyway, here is your reward and a bonus for finishing faster than I expected. Aside from the stone bow, John gave Billy some arrows and a target. Billy had forgotten that he would need one to train near his home. Thank you very much, Billy said. If you need help again, I will help. In exchange for some equipment. Billy didn't say that, but it was obvious. Although he said that, Billy wondered if he would get another job with him. After all, the business wasn't going well. While Billy could help, his interference would be too obvious, and it would be a waste to help and not gain anything in exchange. While carrying his rewards back home, Billy arrived filled with pride. It was the first time that he was going to fiddle with a bow, so he was looking forward to it. After having dinner with his family, Billy went to practice outside. Thanks to Lily's tips and the occasional training he had with her bow, Billy already was good enough to never miss the bull's-eyes, when he was 3 meters away from the target. He didn't know if it was a coincidence or it was an effect of the skill, but archery was also at level 3. Archery. It increases your precision and damage when using bows and crossbows. The skill didn't give detailed information, so it was hard to be certain if the skill reached level 10, if Billy would be able to hit his target 10 meters away from him. Billy could always make his archery level up without training. However, for the time being, he decided to train it organically and level up himself and the bow to see which types of skills the weapon could get. Stone Bow. LV05 Strength plus 2 Dexterity plus 1 Durability. 40/40th Status Points. 25 Effects. Skills Points. 25 HP LV01. 10 Skill Points. MP LV01. 10 Skill Points. SP LV01. 10 Skill Points. Bonus Accuracy LV01. 25 Skill Points. Arrow Creation LV01. 25 skill points. After practicing for a week, Billy's skill reached level 5, and he also made the bow level up 5 times. The effects that he could put on his bow still were weak and not impressive. However, it was probably because Billy still didn't know much about that world and its possibilities. In any case, the arrow creation effect seemed interesting. Could the bow produce arrows by itself? That wasn't something he had seen so far, so it was strange. In any case, Billy trained with the bow only at home because the training grounds were the only place he could spar with others. Much to his surprise, Natalie returned with a bruised eye after 1 week as well. "What happened to you, Natalie?" Lily asked, visibly worried. "Ha ha ha. I got defeated in many spars over the last week." Natalie forced a weak smile. "I did pretty well on the first day, but after that." Natalie described what had happened. On the first day, she sparred with some kids that were 5 years older, and she even managed to land a few hits. That was surprising since Billy knew that she was close to their level. But once that happened, the other kids began to spar with her several times a day, and her stamina began to suffer thanks to that. One might say that it was just a method to make a difficult child not get carried away with her talent, but Billy knew that it wasn't the case. Over the course of the last 2 years, the other kids of her tribe never sparred with her. The older ones certainly had more grudges if the kids were like that because of her fighting style. In the end, they said that it is too soon for me to join them. Natalie said. Despite her bad behavior and pride, Natalie was a good kid. A kid who didn't deserve that kind of treatment from her own people. Billy saw himself getting surprised and angry at the issue. Even though he wasn't directly related to it, he couldn't just ignore the fact that a kid was being bullied just because she wanted to do things differently than the others. However, Billy also couldn't get too involved with that. "What are your plans now?" Billy asked. "I will keep training until I obtain the strength to show them that my path isn't wrong," Natalie said. "Well said, but since you are a muscle-head, you will need some help," Billy said. "What did you say?" Natalie said while clenching her teeth. Billy ignored Natalie's complaints and then began to spar with her. Solving the issue by increasing the strength of her weapon would be too easy. Instead of that, Billy focused on making her overcome her weakness, which was her short temper, and improving her strength, which was her natural talent, lack of fear, and eagerness to train. She had improved a lot when they sparred together. Still, since Billy always focused on counter-attacking, it gave her the bad habit of staying on the offense. Now, he would be the one to stay in the offense and let her learn how to defend herself while changing her posture to attack as fast as possible. As a result of the first day, Natalie ended up hurt in several spots on her arms. However, after a while, she began to get used to it, at dodging attacks while not losing her momentum and ferocity. Chapter 23. Light Spear, 3, you are listening at novelfull.audio. Buruburu. Billy said while making weird faces. Currently, Billy was trying to make his siblings laugh. They finally were big enough for him to try to act silly and make them laugh. However, that only worked with Samuel, the older of the twins. He laughed quite a lot when Billy made those faces, but Samara cried, and after a while, Samuel would cry too. After several days of continuous research, Billy learned something that could make both of the kids laugh. He put his left hand under his right armpit and then moved his right arm, mimicking the sound of a fart. Both of his siblings laughed so much after hearing the sound of the fart that Billy felt that he had accomplished his mission, but his mother was looking at him with stern eyes. "I didn't really fart," Billy said and then made a demonstration. "I see, where did you learn that?" Camilla frowned. From the other kids during the training session, Billy replied with a lie since he couldn't say that it was something he learned in his previous lie. Nevertheless, Camilla didn't ask anything else because she was thankful for the fact that Billy really loved his siblings. Most kids of his age would feel jealous because he was once the center of the family's attention, and then suddenly, he wasn't anymore. He even helped her with their baths and when they needed to change clothes. It was quite the work to take care of twins, so she was really thankful. Although, thanks to all that, Billy's time while meditating at home decreased by half, it wasn't something that he was worried about. His training was going well, and all his skills were way above his current age. In fact, it was on the same level as the kids that were training with the adults. Billy. LV 39. 180/2000 EXP HP, 2747 MP 75/107 SP, 2727 Strength. 22 Speed. 12 Magic. 36 Endurance. 12 Dexterity. 0-1 Status Points. 126 Skill List. Mana/EXP Conversion LV Infinity, EXP Master LV Infinity, Language Skill LV 39, Analyze LV 22, Appraisal LV 25, Meditation LV 17, Spearmanship LV 15, Swordsmanship LV 07, Archery LV 07 Skill Points. 175. If I have to say that I am lacking and that's something I want, it is magic, Billy nodded to himself. Aside from some things and very basic skills and effects, Billy had to experience certain skills and effects to be able to learn or make use of them somehow. So, he considered going to check the battles between the guards and the elementalists. That probably would give him the demonstrations he wanted, but he never had the chance to do so until now. Considering how wary he was, Drew probably wouldn't take him if he asked. Waiting for 3 years isn't something that I want to do, Billy thought. Maybe there is some other way, like books that teach magic. Do they exist in this world? Since he was reincarnated, Billy never heard or saw a book, so it was hard to tell. Still, he should at least do some research and check it. While he probably won't find any book teaching him a spell, he will welcome any concept and knowledge. On a rare day off that Drew had, Camilla decided to walk around the city with Samuel and Samara and make them get some sunlight. While they weren't plants, it was common sense among the tribe that kids grow healthier when they play in the sun often. While Billy couldn't help them carry the kids, he still went with them because that was a rare occasion and because it was an opportunity for him as well to find the books. "Are you looking for something, Billy?" Drew asked. "You are looking around like you are." "I am just curious since this is the first place I can see the other parts of the town," Billy replied. While that wasn't exactly a lie, Billy was starting to get tired of hiding his powers. While it was something that could draw attention, he could trust on his new family, but then he realized that such a thing might put them at risk as well. In a world where he couldn't hide his face behind a mask or something, he had to be extra careful. In any case, it was rare for the whole family to have that opportunity, so they walked around town for quite a while and checked many places such as shops and houses of the people they knew. However, they didn't find anything related to books. Billy was pretty sure that he had seen all the shops, so there was only one place to look for books. The Lord's residence. Entering such a place will be even harder than spying on the battles and seeing magic in action, Billy thought. Only a few guards could enter the Lord's residence and only when they were summoned. It was impossible for Billy to go to such a place unless he began to stand out. It was a pity, but Billy will have to put his plans to learn magic on hold. Still, he checked his skill list and saw if there was anything related to magic, but he didn't find it. I suppose controlling mana is the basis of everything. Let's see if I can do that while I meditate, Billy thought. Since his two main skills used mana as a basis to make things stronger and analyze and appraisal were basically spells, he had a feeling that maybe he could know himself. However, after 1 week, Billy didn't make any progress. However, Billy understood one thing. The skills that he learns from the system can be used naturally and near instantly without any problems. Still, Billy couldn't control them freely. He might learn and magic skills easily thanks to the system, but they will come with several limitations. Chapter 24. Light Spear 4. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. Since Billy had so many things to do daily, time passed in the blink of an eye. His 8th birthday passed, and all of his skills already were above level 15. His spearmanship also leveled up quite a bit. While his strength is not up there yet, Billy could spar with kids who were years older and entirely read their moves and stop them. He didn't feel much sense of accomplishment since they were only kids, but the adults of the tribe were making a big fuss over it. They reported to Drew and Camilla, and while they tried to contain their excitement and pride, they praised Billy for that. Instead of getting happy over defeating kids, Billy felt more satisfied in playing with his siblings. Just a few days ago, Samuel and Samara called him Byrie. They were so cute that he was all smiles when Billy was with them. Around that time, Alexander and Lily became old enough to train with the adults, and after a full year, Natalie also joined the second group of her tribe. It took a while to confirm that, but Billy eventually learned that they were doing well with the second training group. After all, their skills and strength were on the same level as kids 5 years older than them. While Billy was happy with their progress, his partners had gone to the second stage, and he was left alone behind. He couldn't receive special treatment, so he had to wait for 2 years just like everyone else. Weirdly enough, Billy only got along with the misfits, so the other kids didn't interact with him. Upon noticing that, Drew decided to help Billy on reaching the next level by himself because he assumed that the other kids were afraid of sparring with him. After all, they knew that his group grew up faster than the others. Drew woke up earlier than usual and asked Billy to follow him on a certain day. "You are making a lot of progress, but you can't get carried away, Billy," Drew said. "Until you master 3 basic techniques of our tribe, you can't call yourself a real warrior." Even though it was the first time he heard about that, Billy nodded since it seemed interesting. "Usually, this type of technique is only taught when you receive a real weapon instead of a training one, but I am sure you can handle it," Drew said. Billy revived the day when his mother began to train him for a few minutes. Drew was also a worrywart, so she spent quite a while saying obvious things like that he shouldn't use those techniques when sparring with the other kids. Even so, the most obvious moves, those 3 were created and refined to kill the enemies. The first one is the simplest to learn and master. "Look well and engrave this in your mind," Drew said. Drew created some distance from Billy, and then he took 2 quick steps toward him. On the third, he kicked the ground with all his might, and Billy felt it trembling for a moment. While in midair, Drew spun forward so fast that Billy didn't even see him moving his sword. Before he could even blink, he swung his spear toward Billy, but he stopped before the attack could land. "We call this deadly jump," Drew said. "It is pretty lethal since you either defeat your enemy with it, or you fail and give them the enemy to kill you." It was deadly from both sides, but something like that was to be expected from a big and flashy move. Instead of letting Billy try it, Drew went and showed the second skill. Weirdly enough, Drew didn't do anything aside from assuming the tail guard with his spear, but then he suddenly stepped forward and then swung his spear in an arc upward. The pressure of the wind had been so powerful that Billy was forced to take a few steps backward. "This one is called Steel Spear," Drew said. "If you want to defeat a very offensive enemy with a counterattack, this will be very useful." Billy realized that, once it is completely mastered and the strength reaches a high level, it might even destroy the defense of the sturdiest of the enemies. If the enemy's guard is down, they will be completely wiped out. "The last one is the most basic, but it is also the most deadly," Drew said. "There is no trick behind it. You can only master this skill by continuous training." Drew assumed the usual thrust stance and then took a deep breath before swinging his spear forward. Billy didn't even see the spear moving. It looked like half of the spear disappeared for a moment. He didn't hear the sound of the shockwave, but Billy still was knocked down by it and even rolled on the ground a few times. "This is the light spear, our most powerful skill. Its potential is almost endless. It only depends on how much you train this," Drew said. "Some of our warriors can pierce rocks with this skill. I hope that you can reach that level." "No, I am sure you will. Train those skills well, Billy." Drew left the area, and then Billy was left speechless. The last skill particularly shocked him completely. He wanted to learn that no matter what, by himself, he confirmed that the system would give him the chance to easily obtain the skill. Still, he didn't want to have any limitations with it. "The list of skills has been updated, you can now learn. Deadly Wind. 25 skill points Steel Spear. 50 skill points Light Spear. 100 skill points." For such a powerful skill, the cost to learn was pretty low, but it didn't matter. Again, Billy was determined to learn the skill by himself, and without wasting any time, he began to practice it. Chapter 25. Light Spear 5. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Billy didn't have to practice those skills in the training ground, and since no one wanted to spar with him, then he had no reason to go. To save time, he began to practice in the area in front of his home. After 1 month, his hands and feet were so wounded that he had to take a break for a few days to let them heal. Unfortunately, while spearmanship leveled up, he didn't obtain the skill. "My thrust attack obviously got a lot better, but it isn't on the level necessary. Billy thought. Do I have to increase my speed and strength for that? Before doing that, Billy decided to investigate who was the youngest of the tribe who already had that skill on their list. Appraisal had leveled up so much that it could even show that. In any case, the youngest of the tribe who had that skill was 15 years old. His strength was 56, and his speed was 49. So, considering the numbers alone, he was 2 times stronger and 3 times faster than Billy. However, his spearmanship was also 10 levels higher than Billy's. Maybe my body can't handle that much improvement. Still, my strength and speed increased naturally a little over the last month, so I maybe should be patient and slowly build up my statuses, Billy thought. Billy insisted on that method of training for several months. Sometimes, he felt like giving up and relying on the system to learn the skill, but he knew that his satisfaction would be much higher if he achieved that by himself. Sometimes, when she saw massive amounts of steam leaving his body or when his hands were dripping blood, Camilla felt like stopping Billy. Still, the look of determination on his face made her stop. Over the course of a year, Billy trained to learn that single skill. While his father never stopped him while he trained to the point where he almost fainted, Anna still scolded him for being so reckless. At the same time, she put some ointment on his hands and covered them in bandages. You have learned the skill light spear cost 10 SP. When Billy finally succeeded in creating a shockwave, even before he was alerted by the system, he sighed in relief. His strength and speed had to reach the 40.5 mark for him to be able to use the skill. Still, it wasn't on the same level as his father. However, he was satisfied for the time being. Billy. You did it. Camilla said and then approached while carrying Samuel and Samara. You are the youngest of our tribe to learn that technique. Well done. Camilla almost called him a genius, but she corrected herself because she didn't want Billy to get carried away. Billy smiled while his siblings were trying to grab his staff. While he was making them miss it by switching his weapon around, Billy learned that his father was the youngest one who had learned that skill. He learned it when he was 13, and his mother learned when she was 14. While breaking the previous record by 4 years was pretty nice, Billy was expecting at least that much of himself. He didn't have the same amount of experience, but he had the same mental age. Billy planned to take a few days off and play with his little brother and sister after cleaning himself, but once he did that, he almost dropped on his bed and fell asleep for a full day. On the next day, Drew asked him to show the skill in action, and he nodded to himself in satisfaction. It is the real deal. If you learn the other 2 skills, I doubt that anyone will be against you joining the guard, Drew said. Do you want it? Yes, Billy said and then nodded. Then inform me when you learn them, and I will make you show the skills to the others, Drew said. I am impressed by your growth, Billy. While I admire your perseverance, you should calm down a little bit, don't feel so eager to fight others. Billy nodded since he knew that his father was talking about the elementalists. Training to fight them and actually fighting them were 2 different matters. Drew didn't want his son experiencing that kind of thing. Fortunately, Billy was worried about the possibilities that he would have once he joined the guard instead of the fights. Nevertheless, learning the next skills was something that took Billy only a few days. Their physical requirements were much lower than comparative light spear. A few days later, Billy went with Drew to the part of the wall which his tribe was supposed to protect. For the first time in a while, Billy and Alexander meet up. Both of them were too busy with their training, so they didn't interact all that much in the last year. In any case, the others were pretty eager to see if a 9-year-old boy really could use light spear. In the end, Billy made his demonstrations and didn't let anyone unsatisfied with it. They were already quite surprised that Alexander could use deadly wind and steel spear. Still, in the end, they were left speechless. It seemed that their tribe obtained some very powerful soldiers that made everyone tremble, and that was something that didn't happen in several decades. Billy wondered how Alexander would treat him, but he looked relieved that Billy had joined the group sooner than expected. While he was getting along well with the others due to his earnest nature, he still was a pretty shy child. Nevertheless, he welcomed the chance to practice again with his old friend daily. Chapter 26. Light Spear, 6, you are listening at NovelFull.audio. By joining the guards, all the recruits also gained access to a set of armor and weapons. While Billy could use armor, he felt more comfortable without them, but not using a new weapon wasn't an option. This weapon might be a bit big for you right now, but it will be better if you get used to it as soon as possible, Drew said while passing to Billy the weapon that was almost twice as big as him. It looks like it is a good day today, so I will show you how we do our work. Unlike the armor, the guards are allowed to carry with them their weapons back home, and there was a warehouse nearby the walls in several parts of the town in which supplies and the pieces of armor were stored. That also was the place they had their meals during their working hours. Since only adults were working in that area of the tribe, only spears, armor, water, and food were stored there. Still, they were planning to put arrows and other weapons as well since the new generation of guards was learning how to handle many types of weapons. Which reminds me, you know how to use a bow, right? Drew asked. If your range is good, I might ask for some arrows. Yes, I can only hit things 20 meters away from me, though, but if I keep practicing for a year diligently, I can double that reach, Billy said. That is pretty impressive considering that you trained so hard for a year to learn light spear, Drew said. Billy could improve a lot more using the system. He didn't want to overuse it. Besides, he learned recently that dexterity also increases his reach and precision with bows aside from increasing his SP by 2 points. We use the area between the walls and the warehouse to train the new recruits, but if something happens, it is their job to alert the other groups in the other parts of the wall, Drew said. Since your skill with a bow isn't at the level of the redheads, you will do the same. Billy wanted to ask until when, but that probably wasn't a good idea. He would look rather bloodthirsty to his father, and he didn't want to worry his parents. After that, Drew moved around the area and introduced his son to the area's inhabitants. They should get used to the guards as soon as possible to obey their orders in case something happens, after all. The last and most important part of our job is to guard the walls, Drew said while they were climbing some stairs and approaching where the others were. We need to stay cautious at every single moment because our current enemies can use long-ranged attacks. The sooner we notice them, the more chances we will have to repel them. Why don't we have scouts outside the city to prevent even more surprises? Billy asked. We have, but they are a special unit created by the lord of the town, Drew explained after he recovered from the surprise. They bring information directly to the lord about the actions of our enemies. When we know what they are up to completely, we use that chance to leave the town and hunt in the area. It seemed like a simple job, except when it wasn't. Billy knew that now and then, some of the guards would get hurt and lose a limb. Over the years, he didn't hear a lot about it, but some of the guards died. Considering that they had the advantage of being on the defense side. At the same time, they made good use of the walls. It only showed how troublesome the enemies were. Today, you can stay here and experience how a normal day of work is. From tomorrow onwards, you can train with us, Drew declared. Drew. LV 48 HP, 480/480 MP 110/110 SP 384/384 Strength. 195 Speed. 138 Magic. 22 Endurance. 50 Dexterity. 62 Status Points. 00 Skills. Spearmanship LV 62, Deadly Wind LV 39, Steel Spear LV 35, Light Spear LV 34, Block Mastery LV 15. Drew had leveled up to around 15 times since the tribe had moved to that town, so all that training and fighting truly were strengthening him. Billy felt weird that he was almost on the level of his father. However, considering the bonus of training alone, Billy still had a long way to go. In any case, the day passed without any problem, and at the end of it, he received 5 copper coins. The adults gained double of that because they had to fight when necessary. Use your money well, Billy, Drew said. Billy forgot that now he was truly working in another world, but it was hard to tell what he could buy with the salary of a guard. Maybe it was hard to help his family, but he couldn't ignore the chance to buy some things that might help him with his work from now on. He didn't hear that such a thing might be possible, but it would be nice if he could earn more based on his accomplishments. Nevertheless, when the sun began to set, a new group of guards arrived and took their place. Billy had dinner with his family and then practiced outside for a while upon arriving home. He could only use light spear so many times with his current SP, so he had to use it whenever possible to make it stronger. With each level up, he noticed the power and speed behind it getting strong. Once he did that, he also practiced his archery. 100 shots every night should be enough for the time being. Billy nodded to himself. Now that I am working, I have less time than usual to interact with siblings. I don't want to miss this part of their growth, after all. Chapter 27. Light Spear, 7, you are listening at NovelFull.audio. For the first month, Billy didn't experience any difficulties with the work as a guard. However, he didn't drop his guard since everyone else looked pretty much troubled. Apparently, it was rare for the elementalists not to attack the town for such a long time. Billy considered himself lucky because he had more time to train with the adults, and unlucky, because he didn't have the chance to see their magic. Regardless, exactly 1 month after he joined the guard, they came. Go alert the other sides. Drew shouted. Billy was sparring with Alexander when they heard that. It was the sign that they had to listen to immediately stop whatever they were doing and dash toward the other posts of the walls. Billy, Alexander, and 5 other recruits split to alert the other 7 guarding posts. They knew the best routes to reach those posts, and they had been trained to reach those as fast as possible. Billy was supposed to alert the southeastern post, but when he arrived there, he knew that something weird was going on. The guards were looking at the distance with complicated expressions. When he went there to alert them, he saw another group of cloaked figures approaching like they were skiing on the ground. Are they bending earth? Billy thought. The skill list has been updated. You can now learn earth manipulation. The alert was used to call for reinforcements, but it looked like all posts were going to be attacked at the same time, so that they couldn't help each other. When that happened, they still had another countermeasure. The recruits had to go to all the residential areas and ask for the support of the guards who work at night. Billy increased his pace to do that and returned with reinforcements after just 5 minutes. However, even before they could reach the walls, they could tell that something was off. The sound of powerful impacts were taking place very often, and they were so powerful that it made some parts of the town tremble. When Billy arrived, he saw numerous cracks in the walls, even though they were 5 meters thick and 15 meters tall. They are attacking the walls and everyone who is armed with a bow. The current guards alerted the second group, and they slowly climbed the walls before trying to see what was going on. The cloaked figures had 20 or so elementalists in their group, and they were attacking 50 meters away from the walls. A group of 5 were doing nothing and just waiting for archers to appear to kill them, while the others were making some powerful and astonishingly fast earth bullets hit the walls. One didn't have to be a genius to understand what they were after, but they would never destroy the walls with their numbers. Why aren't they attacking a single side in order to destroy it as soon as possible? Billy asked himself. If they attacked a single part of the town like that, even if they didn't invade on the same day, they definitely would succeed, and the townspeople wouldn't have time to repair it in a single night. Considering the range of their attacks, it was hard to imagine them fearing the sheer number of guards as well. They didn't use shields, so stopping them would be easy. While trying to understand those questions, Billy tried to take a peek at the enemies and used appraisal. Sarah. LV 81 HP 114/114 MP 328/882 SP, 90/90th strength. 15 speed. 14 magic. 325 endurance. 17 dexterity. 115 status points. 00 Skill List. Earth Manipulation LV71, Fire Manipulation LV42, Wind Manipulation LV65, Analyze LV44, Appraisal LV44, Meditation LV44, Water Manipulation LV55, Zen LV38. Billy frowned when he saw that the cloaked figure that was attacking the most was a woman who had a massive mana pool, and Billy thought that he had a lot. Nevertheless, he assumed the wrong thing about them. They didn't use spells per se. They manipulated the elements to attack. Still, that seemed a lot more complicated than using common spells. She also had some skills that Billy had and one like Zen that he had no idea what it could do. In any case, the elementalists attacked for a while until some blocks of the walls began to fall, and then they eventually retreated. They were smart enough to save at least 1/4 of their mana to use to escape. Thanks to that, Billy confirmed that he could only learn skills by using the system if they were shown to him. He found the option to learn earth manipulation by using 100 skills points. It was the same cost as light spear, but he didn't find the other skills. Eventually, Billy returned to his post and confirmed that things weren't much better there. His father also was showing a very complicated expression since the guards didn't have the chance to perform their duties. While giving the orders to look for help and to repair the walls as much as possible, he left saying that he would give his report to the lord of the town. It seemed that he was going to receive one hell of a scold, and Billy began to wonder what he could do to help. Chapter 28. Earth Manipulation 1. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The most obvious answer was to learn earth manipulation and fix the walls. They had the materials to fix it, but they didn't have the time, and Billy was pretty sure that using those stones could be possible with earth manipulation. However, that would draw attention to him. How would he explain how he learned the enemy's magic so suddenly? That wouldn't work. Besides, it was hard to tell how the people in the town would react while seeing one of their own using magic. Something that caused problems to them over many years. Still, Billy was determined to learn it, but only explicitly show it to others that it wouldn't cause problems to his family. Wow! I heard stories about their powers, but it is the first time I saw them causing so much damage, Alexander said. At a distance, they are unstoppable. Billy wasn't so sure of that. He saw Alexander's father fighting once, and he was the fastest of the tribe. He probably could dodge and block the attack of the elementalists, at least 3 of them at the same time. He could get closer if someone offered him some support. Since they were physically weaker, and their moving speed while using magic wasn't enough to keep up with his tribe, Nicola sure could stop 20 of them by himself, given the right circumstances. Billy and Alexander worked until late in the night to repair the walls as much as possible. For the first time, they left the town since they arrived, but nothing much had changed in the last 8 years. The green fields around were good for cultivating crops, but the people of the town will never have peace of mind to do that while the elementalists exist. At the end, when Drew showed up, he looked more exhausted than everyone else. He truly got quite the scolding, that made Billy think that he really needed to do something. I suppose I don't have any other choice. Billy thought while he was heading home. You have learned the skill earth manipulation. As soon as they arrived home, Billy and Drew told the others what had happened. Even Billy, who usually would cheerfully play with his siblings, was pretty quiet. They thought that he was worried since he couldn't understand the enemies, but in fact, he was thinking about what he could do to stop them from using earth manipulation. After dinner, Billy went to his room but let the candle burn throughout the whole night while he was checking earth manipulation. After some experiments, Billy confirmed some things. With his mana, he could obtain the control over a determined amount of earth that would change according to the amount of mana used and the skill. He couldn't create the earth, he could only manipulate it. Also, he needed to have a clear image in mind when he was planning to manipulate it because he couldn't change the format on the fly. Also, maybe it was a limitation of the level of the skill, but Billy could only manipulate the earth 1 meter around him. Although Billy learned a lot, he failed in trying to manipulate the other elements. There was something fundamental on the level of such skill that he hadn't discovered yet. Instead of wasting time with that, Billy spent the night meditating to recover his mana and priming his control over the skill. Naturally, a beginner couldn't hope to counter a group of 20 mages, but Billy had a few tricks up his sleeve. One of them was the system, and the other was his brain. When morning came, all the guards headed toward the walls. Several bows and countless arrows had been put on the warehouses to let them be used. Even those who didn't have a lot of experience had to use it because they couldn't let the elementalists get too close. The closer they are, the more deadly their magic can be, after all. Aside from that, the gates were also opened, and several guards were using their pieces of armor, including Drew. Even if it were dangerous, they would risk their lives to prevent more of those attacks on the walls. "We are pretty certain that they will come to finish the job they started yesterday," Drew said. "But there is always the chance that they will try to wear us out while keeping us here. We don't know how much magic they can recover overnight, so be prepared for everything." Billy was sure that they could recover all their mana. After all, their meditation level was higher than his. Unfortunately, he couldn't tell that kind of thing either to the others. Despite that, they were experienced enough to know that they would have to stay on the walls for several days until they were fully repaired. Meanwhile, when no one was watching, Billy kept practicing earth manipulation by using the bare minimum amount of mana. Imagination and control are the keys when one is facing overwhelming odds. In the end, the elementalists came around the same time as the previous day, confirming what Billy already knew about their ability to recover mana. The guards immediately left the gates and then proceeded to block the advance of the enemies. However, before each group could do anything, Billy used earth manipulation and made a small part of the wall fly toward the enemies while spinning insanely fast. Despite the distance, the spinning effect made the attack didn't lose speed and eventually hit the knee of one of the enemies, making him fall and bleed from both sides. Chapter 29 Earth Manipulation 2. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. Even Billy was surprised with the result of his attack. While he aimed at the target's head, it couldn't be helped that he missed that since he was 100 meters away. Nevertheless, with that attack, he managed to shock the enemies and made them slow down, giving Drew and the others the chance to dash toward them at a fearsome speed. "I thought that they would have resistance against magic attacks since they probably train against each other, but maybe since their HP is low, even an attack like mine can do that much," Billy thought. Billy had increased his magic by 100 points and added the rotation effects to give the small stone he fired more power and speed. So, maybe those factors increased the power of the attack exponentially. Nevertheless, those who had bows drew them and fired toward the enemies before Drew's group could reach them. The arrows fell in an arc, but they were stopped midway when some of the elementalists made some blasts of wind stop the projectiles. The other enemies pointed their hands toward Drew's group and prepared to attack, but they were stopped when all of them used light spear. They also created a blast of wind thanks to the shockwave that made the enemies break their stances. Drew's group charged again because they were close enough to attack while pointing their spears, but some earth walls appeared and blocked their paths. Once again, they used light spear to destroy the walls, but those were thicker than they had imagined and withstood the attack. When they turned around the walls, they saw the elementalists running away while carrying their wounded friend. The recruits were surprised. They didn't know that the elementalists were that weak against surprise attacks. Rather than that, they didn't know what surprised them in the first place. Could that be a trap? "Let's hurry up and help the other posts," Drew shouted. Billy wanted to help as well. Even if the same thing happened, there might look suspicious. No one would find any vestige that connected with him. Unfortunately, he had to stay behind. Without knowing what was happening in the other posts, and because of the fact that he was bored out of his mind, Billy decided to practice his magic and try to understand it better. However, it was the same as trying to learn how to breathe. It was useless since he already knew how. That was the downside of using the system, but maybe if he finds a way to control the other elements, he could make that skill more volatile. Billy wanted to see if he could create weapons made of stone using that magic, but he would have to use a part of the walls or of the town to do so. That certainly would leave vestiges. So, he decided to do something else and wait for another chance to leave the walls. After a few hours, Drew and his group returned, and they were informed that they had repelled all the attacks before they could damage the walls. Apparently, the elementalist was surprised that the guards received reinforcements. That wasn't rivaling their expectations, since it was a clear sign that one of their groups had been defeated. While it wasn't completely true, the worries of all other groups didn't give them the chance to focus on the attack. It was clear that they wouldn't attack again that day, so the guards resumed the repairs. That was really weird. It seemed that one of the enemies suffered damage even before the battle, Alexander said. No one was looking toward Billy with suspicion in their eyes, so it was evident that he hadn't been caught. Still, if the same thing happens again and in front of the same post, Billy had to come up with a better idea on how to handle the situation. Due to the situation, the guards didn't return to their homes. They had to sleep in turns in the warehouse. After skipping one night of sleep, Billy welcomed that, and when he woke up the next day, with his head clear, he had the idea to level up the spears of the guards. Nicola was the fastest of the group, with a speed of 115. He could run almost 20 meters per second, which was insane since Billy barely could run 10 per second, but he knew that only top-tier athletes could achieve that back on Earth. While it wasn't much, Billy made all the weapons level up 2 times and granted them a bonus often in speed. Around the same time as the 2 previous attacks, the elementalists appeared, and since they were acting like before, it didn't seem like they understood what had happened. However, after a while, Billy noticed that their speed was somewhat short. They were being careful. Drew and the most experienced soldiers charged to intercept them while 10 others grabbed their boss and began firing the arrows. They fired at random intervals in order to make them use their wing magic as much as possible instead of just making the enemy's job easier by concentrating the attacks. When Drew's group was close enough, they dashed with all their might and easily reached the enemy's group in the blink of an eye. They pointed their hands toward the group and prepared to fire their spells, but Nicola appeared right in front of them and swung his spear. The boost in speed was even more obvious to him, but the others also felt faster than usual, but they just assumed that they were in good condition that day. Nevertheless, after swinging his spear, Nicola only cut the throat of one of the enemies. The others used wind magic to move away instantly. Once again, some others raised earth walls, but before the guards could turn them around, they made them fall toward them. Chapter 30. Earth Manipulation 3. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. By using Steel Spear at the same time, Drew and 4 other guards destroyed the walls, but that gave the enemies enough time to attack again. Instead of some single target spell, they pointed their hands toward the same place and poured the mana into the creation of a tornado. In just a few moments, the powerful phenomena became 20 meters tall and forced Drew and the others to retreat since the powerful winds were starting to pull them. Fortunately, the elementalists needed all their focus to maintaining that, so they didn't have the chance to attack the guards that were running away. The skill list in the shop has been upgraded. Wind Manipulation. 100 skill points. That wasn't something Billy was expecting to see. He knew that humans in that world could do some amazing feats, but that was beyond his expectations. Slowly but surely, the elementalists began to walk toward the walls, and the guards couldn't do anything. They fired arrows, but the tornado engulfed those. Billy didn't know for how long they would be able to keep that thing up, but they certainly had the confidence to keep it alive until the walls were destroyed. Billy looked around and confirmed that everyone was looking in amazement toward the tornado. He had a chance there, but he had to wait for a while longer. Thanks to the tornado, his attack will lose a lot of power the more it flies. Besides, he couldn't just attack the spell, he had to take down some of the elementalists to break their control over it. When Drew was about to give the order to retreat from the walls, Billy ran to the right side and found a position where the tornado wouldn't get on his path. Once again, he checked if someone was watching him, but he didn't find anyone. So, he bent the knee and touched the floor after activating earth manipulation while looking toward the enemies. There was no need to exaggerate. There was no need to make a scene. He just had to stop the tornado by killing some of the elementalists, and so he did it. When they were just 30 meters away from the wall, and some cracks began to appear thanks to the tornado, Billy fired one after the other some finger-size toward the casters. He fired 7, but 5 hit the enemies. 2 of them got their chests pierced by the bullets, while another one got hit on the left arm, and the remaining 2 got hit on their legs. Those who got hit in their limbs immediately lost them. As for the other 2, they died instantly. The tornado began to tremble since fewer people were controlling it, and the others tried to control it. However, in the end, they failed, and the energy exploded in all directions. The elementalists were sent flying for dozens of meters, and the walls suffered even more damage than before. Still, when the guards went to check it, they confirmed that the battle was over. While heavily wounded, the elementalists got up and left their fallen allies behind. It was unavoidable since they were having a hard time walking without limping. As for the guards, they couldn't tell what happened. Too many things happened in the last few days, after all. Let's go check the situation on the other posts, Drew said. All the 7 recruits were left behind this time since it was clear that the enemies wouldn't attack. Billy clicked his tongue when he heard those orders, but then he realized that the tornadoes couldn't be seen in the distance. Why aren't they using the same strategy on the other posts? After thinking for a while, Billy assumed that they had just faced a squad of mages that were exceptionally good at coordinating and using wind manipulation. A magic of that level could only be used by someone with a massive mana pool, after all, or at least by a group exceptionally good at that type of magic. Still, if there were another group that could do something similar, they would have shown it to this point. With that in mind, Billy relaxed a little bit. I succeeded again, but this definitely won't do, Billy thought. Hiding my skills is a pain. What is the use of these powers if I have to worry about the repercussions that they might bring? Maybe Billy should become what his mother thinks he is, using the mask of a genius, achieve the very best he can to prevent harm from falling on his family. The last thing they needed was to endure a siege or lose another home. After a few hours, the recruits received the report that the other guards protected the walls despite some losses. For some reason, the elementalists weren't as violent as before, probably because the incident of the other day might happen again. They still didn't know what had happened, so focusing on attacking without some caution would be dangerous. Nevertheless, the next day, the elementalists didn't come, but the scouts of the Lord had come. They proved how useful they were. Regardless, after 2 days, Billy and his father had the chance to return home. Apparently, the scouts confirmed that the elementalists returned to their territory. Dad, why can't we use the magic that they used against them? Billy suddenly asked, and they were returning home. We weren't born with that kind of ability, Drew replied after a few moments of silence. Besides, it wouldn't fit our fighting style. It made sense. Still, it didn't give Billy the opening that he wanted to show that he could use their magic, and that was something that could be learned, by him, at least. Without any other choice, Billy decided to keep quiet about it.